Shabbat Shalom, happy Sabbath. Today is for many people, it's a Thursday, but we know that today is an annual Sabbath. It is in fact the Feast of Tabernacles. And so we are thankful to be here because Yah has given us this privilege to meet with him because he had established this way back in Genesis 1 and verse 14 and said on these Sabbaths, annual Sabbaths, he wants to meet with his family. So this morning we have come having heeded his word to bring glory to him. And so I would like for you to join me in the book of Bereshith and chapter 33, and we will read verse 17. And the word says, Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the place is called Succoth. Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the place is named Succoth. So our subject this morning is an altar at Bethel and a house in Shechem. An altar at Bethel and a house in Shechem. Jacob, as you know, is a patriarchal colossus, a man of influence, whose experience meanders its way prophetically from the grabbing of his brother's heel in the womb to the blessing of Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, in North Africa, in Egypt. That's the length and breadth of his experience. From the womb to the very blessing of two young men in North Africa. Throughout Jacob's life, evinces the sovereignty of Yah over the children of Israel. His life reflects that experience, even as his grandfather Abraham's life did. And so Jacob's story is one that is both credulous and incredulous. It alarms and it charms. Jacob's life is one that is punctuated by extraordinary incidents and events within his family and also in the communities where he lived. It has the capacity to astound. His experience does. Even as he draws comfort, we draw comfort from his well-lived experience. Thus, Jacob's life evokes memories of that juxtapositional character, eponymous to the names of Jacob and Israel. We want to look at that juxtapositional situation with Jacob, he being Jacob and also latterly being Yisrael. Because often I hear people changing their names, saying they're Israel, not realizing that names are synonymous with characters. There's no point in changing your name if your character hasn't been changed. If you should do that, change your name and your character is not changed, then you're only exposing, highlighting, illustrating your ignorance. And so when a person says, I am a believer, I am a Christian, but their life, their lived experience bears no reflection of their spoken theology, they have a problem. And so join me here in the book of Isaiah so I may illustrate the point in chapter 4. The word here says, for 7 women will take hold of one man in that day, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own clothes. Only let us be called by your name. Take away all our reproach. In that day, the branch of Yah will be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth will be the pride and the adornment of the survivors of Yisrael. 7 women, the churches, the assemblies, they all want this one man and to wear his name. But they say, we don't want to wear his righteousness. We don't want to eat his bread. We don't want the word that he speaks to us because truth is too offensive. That's what they're saying. And so in that regard, we have many pilots in churches today looking at the embodiment of truth and still asking the question, what is truth? And not waiting around to hear the answer. That is the society in which we live today, a consumer society. That's how the church operates. People are hopping from one place to the next to hear a sermon as if they're in a marketplace. That's what the church has become. And so Jacob, the name Jacob is considered to be a man who was deceptive. But that change that took place was something significant, and we want to look at that. And so we cannot flippantly say, I am an Israelite when we have not wrestled with Yah. We can't do that. So let's turn to Genesis again, Bereshith chapter 31, and let's look at how Jacob's life prophetically meanders its way through the maze of life, of Israel's experience. And see where it takes us this morning. We know that here is a man who, as a brother called Esau, and perhaps throughout the scripture you will see Esau became his erstwhile brother. And then he having to leave home in a rush because he had stolen his brother's birthright on the advice of his mother, Rebekah. Because she, when she was pregnant, Yah had told her that this young man and his brother, they are 2 nations in your womb. And she took hold of that thought and decided that she would send him away because she did not want him to be married to the Canaanites. Chapter 31, verse 1. Now Jacob heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father, he has made all this wealth. He's got our inheritance. He's already stolen his brother's birthright, and he has come here to Mesopotamia, and he has taken our inheritance. And by implication, Jacob is seeing this. He's watching their countenance. He's listening to their words. And verse 2 says, and Jacob saw the attitude of Laban, those piercing glances from Laban, those furrowed brows by his sons. They were not now treating him as they did previously because they realize that he has become wealthy. But they had not thought to themselves that his wealth has been a blessing to them. And had he not been there, they would not have had as much. So Jacob saw the attitude of Laban, and behold, it was not friendly. It was not friendly at all towards him as formerly. Then Yah said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and your relatives, and I will be with you. Now, Jacob had now served Laban 20 years. He'd been here 20 years, and he now has 2 wives, and he has, by this time, 11 sons and a daughter. Benjamin was not yet born. And we are told, if we read the book of Jubilee, that Zebulun and Dinah are twins. That's what it says. And so Yah is saying, return. Go back to your first works. I know your works here, and I know what you have done for Laban. The blessings that you have brought to him, but he doesn't appreciate it. Go back to where I met you first. Go back. And the word says, and Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to his flock in the field and said to them, I see your father's attitude. Those glances at me and the furrowed brows are becoming unbearable. And life is now untenable in this place. I came here with a staff, but I have wealth now, and I must leave because Yah has spoken to me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. However, Yah did not allow him to hurt me. Jacob said, he has cheated me. Jacob is in Mesopotamia, Padam Aram, because he cheated someone. And so he's told to leave. Verse 12, he said, lift up now your eyes and see that all male goats which are mating are striped, speckled, and mottled, for I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am Yah of Bethel, where you anoint a pillar, where you made a vow to me. Now rise, leave this, and return to the land of your birth. Go back to Bethel. You see, my subject is an altar in Bethel, but a house in Shechem. And that's how we watch the meandering, the prophetic meandering of Jacob's life. He leaves home, but he leaves home with the birthright promise. The birthright promise, because the birthright promise is a double portion of the father's inheritance. And as I look at Jacob's experience, I ponder the thought whether there is this juxtapositional difference between the church or the assembly and Israel. Yeshua says, I have one flock. I also have sheep who are not of this fold, but they must come into that fold. Moreover, I am the gate. I'm hearing him say that. There is one flock, and he's the gate, and while he has other sheep elsewhere, those sheep must come in. And you kind of get the impression here that Jacob, that deceitful Jacob, represents that sheep over there that has to come in to the changed name, the eponymous Israel. Are you with me? And so, in the contemporary world in which we live and worship, it's as if we're looking at two railway tracks running parallel to each other. But where your eyes can no longer see them, they appear to meet, but they don't meet. That's how we sometimes make the distinction between the church and Israel. That's how we see it. And so if Yeshua is the true shepherd, if he is the true shepherd, which we know he is, and he has one flock, and he has one assembly that is headquartered in heaven, says Hebrews 12 and verse 23, the general assembly, then I wonder whether we can flippantly make that distinction between the church and Israel. And perhaps what we ought to conceive is that the church is like a railway carriage picking up people at different halts, different stations, and then bringing them to the destination of Israel. So we are studying this morning that we cannot have an altar in Bethel and a house in Shechem. We can't do that. We cannot have an apartment in Babylon and a house in Jerusalem. We can't do that. And so we're told that twice in chapter 31, Yah tells him, you must leave now and go back to Bethel. Go back to Bethel. So join me in chapter 32. The word says, now, as Jacob went on his way, the angel, the messenger of Yah, met him. Jacob said, when he saw them, this is Yah's camp. So he named the place Mahanaim, meaning there are two camps. One you can see and one you can't see. The angel are letting him know, we're here, we encamp, and David later on makes the point, Yah's angels encamp around you. Not everybody can see that. So he named the place, meaning two camps. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to his erstwhile brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He also commanded them, saying, thus shall you say to my master Esau, thus saith your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed until now. I have oxen and donkeys and flocks and male and female servant, and I have sent to tell you, my master, that I may find favor in your sight. He had not seen his brother for 20 years, but he's now wealthy. And he sets out to go home, but he wants to appease his brother. He wants to pacify the situation that existed between them. And he's not sure how his brother is going to respond to him. And the word says the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to your brothers Esau, and furthermore, he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him. No more repugnant news could have reached Jacob's ears. To hear that he's seeking to make peace with his brother, and his brother is coming with 400 men to meet him. And in his mind, they're not coming to shake hands. Then the word says, Jacob was greatly afraid, and rightly so. He was distressed, and he divided the people who were with him and the flocks and the herds and the camels into two companies. For he said, if Esau comes to the company and attack it, then the company, the group which is left, will escape. It's a strategy that he employs. Jacob said, oh my father Abraham, and Yah of my father Ishtak, O Yah, who said to me, return to your country and to your own relatives, and I will prosper you. So he's praying, and you can hear the anxiety in his prayer. He exposes his fear in his prayer. And he's reminding Yah, you said you would protect me. He said that. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him. You know, one of the things about prayer, we ought to be honest. You're fearing and you say, well, I'm all right. No, you fear. Jacob here is saying, and it's not the Jacob that we knew back then. He's saying, I fear, protect me. But he's reminding Yah and holding Yah to his own word. You said you would protect me. That's what he's doing. For you said that I will surely prosper you and make your descendants as the sands of the sea, which is too great to be numbered. So he spent the night there. Then he selected from what he had with him a present for his brother Esau. Now, let's look at that. Because sometimes we become so Scrooge-ish in our gifts to others and their gifts to us. The Bible says that it is always better to give than to receive. Here is a man who fears his brother, spoken to his father, letting his father know that his name was Esau. And as a consequence of that deceit, he got his brother's birthright. And perhaps we ought to look at that in the sense that it reveals to us the essence of salvation, in a sense, in that salvation is paid for. Every man that has ever been born has salvation paid for. It's an absolute right. It's your birthright. Salvation is your birthright because it's paid for and it's yours. So on the one hand, you have an absolute right to salvation. But on the other end, you have an apparent uncertainty of losing your absolute right. And so the question this morning, how do you reconcile that? How do you? And so we're using Jacob, as a periscope to look at that. His brother was the one with the birthright, but he soon sold out for a pot of stew. And so the man in the street who has not yet accepted Yeshua, and the person in the church who believes he's a believer, but his action doesn't demonstrate his faith because his spoken theology is distinct from his lived religion. He too need to understand this. And so he hears that his brother is coming towards him with 400 men. And he starts to divide the group in portions strategically so that if he attacks him, some will escape. But the word says he had prepared for his brother gifts. I have oxen and donkeys and flocks and male and female servant, and I have sent to tell my master that I may find favor in his sight. He wants them to know that. And so you can see that he's working hard. He's thinking how best to reach his brother. Because the last time they spoke, or he heard from his mother that Esau was planning to kill him. In fact, when you read the book of Jubilees, it says it was revealed to Rebekah in a dream that Esau was plotting to kill his brother. And so we've just looked at the prayer through our ears. What he prayed in fear. And so verse 13 again, for emphasis, says, so he spent the night there, then he selected from what he had with him a present for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He delivered them into the hand of his servant, every drove by itself, and said to his servant, pass on before me and put a space between drove. Give my brother these, because I have enough. When was the last time you hear in our society someone saying they had enough? It doesn't matter how much they have. The multiplications of millions and billions, they still want more. Jacob said, give this to my brother. I wronged him. And I want to make peace with him. I want to make peace. I want to pacify that rift. I think this ought to be made required reading at the United Nations. We need to tell this to Israel and tell it to the Palestinians. We need to tell this to the factions of groups that are seeking peace but don't know how to go about it. Jacob said, give these gifts to my brother. because I have enough. You know how much billions that man made last year, but he still pays his workers peanuts. Jacob said, I have enough. I have enough. And so the word says that when Esau came near, they hugged and they kissed. And Esau said, no, my brother, I have enough too. I have enough. Verse 17, let's read that. He commanded the one in the front, saying, when my brother Esau meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong? And where are you going? And to whom do these animals in front of you belong? Then you shall say, these belong to your servant, Jacob. It is a present sent to my master Esau, and behold, he also is behind us. Then he commanded also the second and the third, and those who follow the droves, saying, after the manner you shall speak to Esau when you find him. And you shall say, behold, your servant Jacob also is behind. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me, that afterward I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept me. If I give him these gifts, perhaps it will pacify whatever feelings he may have against me or have had against me, and we can become brothers again. Tell that to the Secretary General of the United Nations. Now he arose the same night and took his 2 wives and his 2 maids and his 11 children and crossed the ford of Yabok. Remember, there's no J in the alphabet, it's Yabok. He took them, so you have here Jacob and Yabok. And he took them and sent them across the stream, and he sent across whatever he had. Then Jacob was left alone. He was what? Left alone. And the man wrestled with him until daybreak. And when he saw that he had not prevailed against him, he touched the socket of his thigh. So the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated while he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But he said, I will not let you go unless you blessed me. This is Jacob. This is a tough, resolute man. Wrestled all night. And when the man, Yeshua, is about to leave, he said, I will not let you go until you bless me. Seemingly, he is waiting for, wanting confirmation of the birthright blessing that he stole from his brother. I want your blessing. So he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Yeshua said to Jacob, what is your name? You see, we've got to be honest to Yeshua, because the last time that Jacob spoke to his father, Yishtak, when his father asked him, who are you? He said his name was Esau. Yeshua is not asking him to find out his name. He already knew his name. It's for his benefit to reflect upon what he had done and to be on it. And it is for our admonition so we too can learn from this experience. What is your name? And perhaps you'll recall also, I think it's in Judges chapter 13 and verse 17, when Manoah asked the same question, what is your name? And the angel said, Wonderful. So Isaiah picks up that theme and said, his name is Wonderful in chapter 9. And so Jacob here was being honest. My name is Jacob. And Yeshua said, no longer will it be Jacob. It is now Yishriah. He said, this is verse 28, he said, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Yisrael, for you have striven with Yah and with men and have prevailed. Some would say that Israel is still striving with Yah. Some would say that. But we've got to understand that Jacob here is asked to go back to Bethel. Go back to Bethel. And so what we're dealing with when we address the issue here of Jacob is the issue of the church and Israel and how it plays out prophetically. So perhaps those who think there is a difference between the church and Israel, it's not that they are having a problem with eschatology, but they're having a problem with ecclesiology. That's what they're having a problem with. If it's one flock, then there must be a point where those two railroad tracks that are running parallel must come together as one in the same pasture, because he is the one shepherd and it's one flock. We've got to understand that. And so let's now go to chapter 33. So Jacob went to Laban's house as a deceiver. He had two experiences, one where he slept on a stone and Yah blessed him, and now he's wrestling with Yeshua and his name is changed, meaning his character is changed. Now understand something else. When he met Esau, he told Esau to go ahead of him. Because Esau said, I want to leave some of my men with you so you can come to Seir with me. And he gives Esau the impression that he's going to go to Mount Seir, to Edom with him. And Esau said, I'll leave some of my men to come with you, to travel with you, to sojourn with you. But Jacob did not go to Seir. Jacob went to Shechem. How then would Esau be feeling? Perhaps thinking, my brother has not changed. And notice Jacob here, when he divides the family together, he puts the sons that belong to the maid in front, the sons that belong to Leah in the middle, and the ones he loved, the one he loved, Joseph, at the back. We're like that sometimes, aren't we? We do things for people and esteem those whom we love, but those whom we don't care, we don't even call them. When they email us, we don't even respond to them. And so you know where you stand with people, whether you are the Leah in their lives or whether you're the Joseph. Or you're just a maid. You treat them as a priority, but they treat you as an option. We know where we stand, or at least we ought to know. Chapter 33. Then Jacob lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming. Wow. And 400 men with him. 400 men. And it was threatening, but he overcame that situation and decided that he would move on to where Yah had asked him to go. Then verse 17, let's come back to verse 17 in chapter 33. Jacob journeyed to Succoth. Well, verse 16 said, and Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, to Mount Seir, to Edom, where he lived, expecting Jacob to return with him. But the word in verse 17 says, but Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the place is named Succoth. That's not where Yah told him to go. Twice in chapter 31, Yah says, go to Bethel, the place where you met me first. Many of us are in places that Yah did not send us. We are in churches that Yah did not design, Yah did not develop, Yah did not intend to exist. But what's here? When you read the story of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all of them lived in tent, but Jacob built a house, meaning he's going to stay here. They were supposed to build tents as booths to illustrate it's a temporary stay. Many of us come to the Americas, to Britain and elsewhere, and we have developed vast entities, wealth, bank accounts, and we have come to stay. But it's not what Yah intends for us. Not at all. Go back to Bethel, build me an altar and worship me. But no, they don't worship anymore because money, wealth. Remember, Jacob went to Padam Aram with only a staff. He's coming back with cattle, with children, with wives. He's wealthy. And Yah said, remember when I blessed you when you had nothing. Go back now. Come back to the assembly. Come back to church. Come back to me and worship. The word says he built a house. Abraham did not build a house. Isaac did not build a house. But the word said he came safely to Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. When he came from Paddan Aram and camped before the city, he bought the piece of land where he had pitched his tent from the hand of the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Then he erected there an altar and called it El Elohim Israel. He did that. Now, we've got to understand that when Yah speaks, his word is law. Whether you're just an ordinary man in the street or whether you're Jacob, it's the same. Yah is no respecter of person. He says, Jacob, I want you to go to Bethel. Before you, Abraham was at that place. Abraham built an altar. I want worship. I've given you all this wealth, all this money. You have great resources now. I want you to come back and worship me. The word says, Jacob bought a piece of land and built a house and did not go to Bethel. How many people you know today who have made it good, done well, but on a day like today, Shabbat, annual or weekly, they're out there in the movies, at the ball game, on the golf course, playing games. Who with? Not with the people, but with your souls. But they know it not. Go back to Bethel. Come back to me. That's the essence of the call. Oh, you're now Israel, but your character must reflect that change. It must reflect that change. And so he stayed here. So you better come with me to chapter 34 now, because the word says, now Dinah, as I indicated earlier, that we're told that Zebulun and Dinah are twins. The Bible doesn't say that, but the book of Jubilees says that. The book of Jubilees says that. Now, I want to read you something from the book of Jubilees also. It says that this is in relation to Isaac. Remember the last time when Jacob spoke to his father, the Bible says his eyes were dim. He could not see. And that's one of the reasons why he was feeling his way around the body of Jacob to see, through his pineal gland, not with his eyes, what he looked like. He said the voice is Jacob, but the hand is Esau, because his mother had dressed him up. Now, the word says that when he came back home, this is what it says, and I'm reading here from chapter 31 in the book of Jubilees. And this is verse 8. And Jacob went into Isaac his father to the chamber where he laid, and 2 sons were with him, and he took the hands of his father. Those 2 sons that he brought with him was Levi and Judah, Yehudah. So he took them to his father in the chamber where he lay, and his 2 sons were with him, and he took the hand of his father, and stooping down, he kissed him, and Isaac clung to the neck of Jacob his son, and wept upon his neck, and the darkness left the eyes of Isaac. The darkness left the eyes of Isaac, and he saw the 2 sons of Jacob, Levi and Yehudi, Judah, and he said, Are these thy sons, my son? For they are like thee. And he said unto him that they were truly his sons, and thou hast truly seen that they are truly my son. And they came near to him, and he turned and kissed them and embraced them together. Listen to this, verse 12. And the spirit of prophecy came down into his mouth, and he took Levi by his right hand and Judah by the left, and he turned to Levi first and began to bless him first and unto him. And he blessed both. But the point I want to make here is that the spirit of prophecy came on his lips. Often you hear people have relegated the spirit of prophecy to a book or something else. No, it's a gift that Yah gives to people. And as he prophesied, one of the things he prophesied here was that Levi would become a priest and Judah would become king and ruler. He said that. This is Isaac, Ishtak. But I just wanted to make that point from the book of Jubilee regarding the gift of prophecy. And so we're back in chapter 34. It says, and Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. So often, young ladies in the church, for whatever reason, decide that they're going to commingle with the daughters of the land, sometimes at the movies, sometimes in dance halls, to listen to the latest that is in the society. And the word says, and when Shechem, the son of Amor, the Evite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. He laid with her by force. In our vernacular, we would call that rape. She was raped. She was plucked as an unripe fruit from the garden of Jacob, prince. Jacob was a prince. And therefore, Dinah was a princess. And she was to reflect the character of her calling. But she went out to spend time with the daughters of the land, listening to their music. That's the implication. Drinking their kind of wine, speaking their kind of language. That is, it evokes some kind of response from Shechem. Why? Daddy stopped off there. Shouldn't have been there. Should have been in Bethel. But he bought a house here. It's a good place for cattle, but not to raise families. No. Twice. Yahweh says, go back to Bethel. But wealth. You remember the same kind of wealth that caused the split between Lot and Abraham? The word says that Lot had so much now that he couldn't live with Abraham. So he moved his tent and pitched it on the outskirt of Sodom. And by the time you know, he was no longer on the outskirt. He was inside of Sodom. And when the war started, they took him captive. And now Abraham, who he couldn't live with, had to go and seek after him. How often you see the people who have made it rich, who are doing well, good job, well educated, well spoken, well dressed, presenting themselves that people can say, well done, have forgotten Yah. But then, when circumstances come to them, whether it be sickness or something else, they want to come to Bethel. Keep me in prayer. Nothing wrong with that. But when should we remember Yah? Remember now thy Creator. When? In the days of your youth. Why? Because when the evil days come, the evil circumstances come, you ain't going to have any pleasure in them, no matter how much wealth you have. You're playing with your soul. Are you with me? You have children who have never been to church, have never been blessed. Did you not hear? Proverbs 22:6 is talking to you. Train up a child in the way that he should go, so that when he's old, he's not depart. And you have children running up and down. Don't you know that Yah is going to hold you responsible for not raising them the way that they should go? You don't know that? Then you are really ignorant. You're really ignorant. And so the word says Dinah was raped. But Jacob kept his peace. That is until the boys came home from the field. And Levi and Simeon, they were not going to let this go. We hear the word said, vengeance is mine, said Yah. They understood that. But you know why they were so angry? Because they are the full brothers of Dinah, of Leah. Are you with me? Are you going to allow this, Father, for these Shechemites to treat our sister as she is an harlot? So they spoke in deceitful language because the prince wanted her to be his wife. Jubilee says she was about 12 years old. You know, that's what it says. He wanted her to be his wife. But they said, we can't do that because, you know, you are uncircumcised. And you know, you would have to be circumcised before we contemplate that as an idea. And it sounded good to the prince, but they had something in mind. And the word says that after they were agreed to the plot, shall I call it the plot? Because there was an agenda too, you know, from them, because they wanted to make sure that they would get the livestock. Listen to let's read verse 22 and verse 23 of chapter 34. It says, only on this condition will the men consent to us. This is the Shechemite now. They went to the gate and they're talking to their men saying, this is what the Israelites say. They want us to do this and we can give them our daughters and, you know, take their daughters and we trade by way of marriage that way. Only on this condition will the men consent to us to live with us, to become one people, that every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? See, they have an agenda. Only let us consent to them and they will live with us. If we consent with them, this little thing, just be circumcised. All that they have is ours. They don't know it yet, but we will do that. But Simeon and Levi had another agenda too. And the word says, all who went out of the gate of his city listened to Amor and to his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, and all who went out of the gate of the city. Now it came about on the third day. That's when they're sore. It's one thing to have a baby circumcised on the 8th day. It heals fast. But when an adult becomes circumcised, it takes a while. And all these are adults being circumcised. It says on the 3rd day when they were sore, they were in pain, that 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, and each took his sword and came up on the city unawares and killed some of the male, all of the males, all. They killed Amor and his son Shechem with the edge of the sword and took Dinah from the Shechem's house and went for it. Jacob's sons came up on the slain and looted the city because they had defiled their sister. Did you hear that? We go in churches today and see young women are being defiled by men in the church. And not a word is said. They keep their peace because there is no Simeon and there is no Levi in the church. Is that why? We must protect our women. Now, Jacob said to Simeon, verse 30, and Levi, you have brought trouble on me because making me odious. You made me stink. You kind of get the impression here that Jacob is more angry with the response of his sons than he is with what the Shechemites had done. That's the impression you get. So let's come to chapter 35 now as we close this thing out. It says, and Yah said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel. What? This is the 3rd time. The 3rd time. And live there. Don't live in Shechem. Move. Uproot. And make an altar there to Yah, who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods which are among you, and purify yourselves and change your garments, and let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to you. It's about time. You see how his life meanders all the way through prophetically. See that? Sometimes a person doesn't respond to the first calling, the second. It's a 3rd calling. He said, I'll go, but purify yourself now. And they must get rid of all the... He did not know that his daughter, Rachel, had stolen some of the household gods of Laban, her father. And evening searching, they could not find it, but they were in the house. My question is, what is it in your house that is causing all this distress on you and still there and won't move? What is it? What idols do you have in your house that shouldn't be there? And things are happening to you, but you're not tracing your steps. You should have gone to Bethel years ago, and you have remained in Shechem because of wealth. What is it? Are you living with a Shechemite? Are you? Because he looks good and he has wealth, you think he's okay? Dinah? No. You're a princess. And so, and let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there. Verse 3. To Yah, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me whenever I have gone. So they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods which they had, and the rings which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the oak which was near Shechem, and they journeyed. There was a great terror upon the cities which were around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. He built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, the house of Yah. El is Yah and Bethel is house. So it's Yah's house. That's what he called the place, because there Yah had revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. So the point here is that whatever it is that we have done in our lives, whatever it is not too late for us to move from Shechem. Shechem is a lifestyle, not necessarily a place. You're living under the rulership of Satan. The things you do, the food you eat, the clothes you wear, demonstrate the fact that you're not listening to Yah, particularly on a Sabbath day when you're out enjoying yourself, when you should be giving praise to Him. Remember, the breath that you breathe so liberally is on loan to you from Him. What if He were to call it in? Where would you be? Where? Behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that I will perform that good thing which I have promised unto the house of Israel and to the house of Yehudah. In those days and at that time will I cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days shall Yehudah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely. And this is the name wherewith she will be called the Master of Righteousness. That's Jeremiah 33, verses 14 to 16. So we are told that juxtapositional situation, or the difference between Israel and the church, it doesn't exist. Because if you read the book of Acts, chapter 7 and verse 30, it says that there was this church in the wilderness, Israel. That assembly that moved from Egypt all the way through the wilderness for 40 years, Stephen here is addressing the matter instead of the church in the wilderness. It's the same Israel. Same Israel. And so when we read as Hosea, chapter 14 and verse 15, he said, for I will be like a lion to Ephraim. I will what? Be like a lion to Ephraim. I will tear him up. When he misbehaves, I will rip him up. And a great lion to Judah, I will bring him to Babylon. And when I ask the Assyrian to take Ephraim, all of them out of the land, I will be to them as a lion. And I will tear them to pieces and go away. I will carry them off with no one to rescue them. Then I will return to my lair until they have borne their guilt and seek my face. I will go back to my place. I will ascend back to heaven until they recognize what they've done to me. In their misery, they will earnestly seek me. I will bring misery upon them. I will bring distress upon them, not to kill them, but to make sure that it leads them unto repentance and they will see what they've done to me. Sometimes, yeah, it does that to us on beds of sickness. For you to reflect so that you can look up and realize that there is no help in your money, in your wealth. Jacob, go back to Bethel. Many of us were raised in churches as young people growing up, but because we have become wealthy, we have drifted into a subculture. We've forgotten Yah. Wealth has blinded us from our deficiencies. We cannot see our own deficiencies. And so my encouragement this morning is, let's go back to Bethel and build an altar. Even in your house, call the family to the family altar and pray. Because Yah said, if my people who are called by my name, by what? What's his name? Israel. Well, how do you know his name is Israel? He said, yes, when Israel was a child, he called him. When Herod was trying to kill him, he called him out of Egypt. His name is Israel. That's the same name he gave to Jacob. Are you with me? So remember that Israel is not a biological inheritance. It's a spiritual inheritance. It is by rebirth that we get that. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and ask for forgiveness, I will do what? I will heal their land. I will bless them. I will be there for them. Michael, in fact, will fight their battles. So let's go back to Bethel. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen.